What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review of the Zuru X-Shot Hurricane and Max Attack blasters. These have both been available for quite some time, but I'm doing a review anyways. They are pretty much the same blaster, more or less, but the little one is just a smaller version of the bigger one, which is, yeah. They're both spring-powered blasters that feed through the Zuru magazine system. Intimidation. Included is the larger blaster with 1 magazine installed, the smaller blaster, 3 bonus magazines, meaning 4 total, a bunch of cans, or half cans, my life is a lie, yeah, and a bunch of darts. If all else fails, at least you have a picture of this kid, you know. Intimidation. Intimidation! So you don't even have to shoot the blaster, you just bring this to a Nerf war, and your opponent will pretty much surrender. What's better than this? A bigger version. Yeah, I cut them both out. Intimidation! 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 Now for the product overview, starting with the Max Attack, which is the larger one. Up front is a cool looking muzzle brake type thing. It doesn't have an attachment point or anything to like touch or manipulate or buttons or anything like that, but it does look pretty cool in my opinion. Moving back to the barrel, this is not removable. You can't unscrew it, or, well, if you have a hacksaw, it is technically removable, but it's not designed to quickly snap on and off like an in-strike attachment front end. This area here is pretty much just a hand grip. Up here it kind of looks like there's a rail system, but it's just for looks. It's not a real rail. And even though this totally looks like a separation as if it's supposed to be an attachment point, it's not, so it's on there. Again, minus a hacksaw, it's a permanent component. Moving back further, there's another like mock rail, but again, it's not a real rail, it's just some molded ridges pretty much. But this component up here is how you prime the blaster. Again, it's a spring-powered blaster, so the prime, you pull it back like this. When you prime it back, it reveals the access door. This blaster is very similar to the Retaliator and how it works and, you know, pretty much the overall gist of it. So if you have a jam or malfunction, you can open up the access door and clear it out. I fired this blaster quite a few times and I didn't jam it. But just in case, primarily if you're using crummy darts or something, you might have to clear a jam. After it's primed back, you push forward just like a Retaliator, then that allows you to fire once. It's also a magazine power blaster. To take out the magazine, you prime back just like a Retaliator. Magazine release is full ambi, like operator ambi. Gotta go ambi, brah. You know, in case you're right-handed or left-handed. Funny enough, I threw away the box, you know, other than the awesome picture, which that's the best part of the box. Yeah, bro, intimidation. 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 But on the box, they call this thing a safety or something, and it's not a safety at all. It's just an ambidextrous, you know, magazine release. So you push that button, which allows you to pull out the magazine. The magazine works just like a Nerf magazine, but it's not cross-compatible because the Zuru darts are just a little bit smaller than standard Nerf darts. You don't believe me? It won't fit. Just like the saw argument, I suppose if you have a hammer in enough force, it'll fit eventually, but you'll break something. The included magazines hold 10 darts, and they work just like normal Nerf magazines. You just load them up and fire. Holds 10 darts. To put it back in, you just slide it down in there. Again, works very much like a Nerf Retaliator. Back to the trigger, it feels like a normal spring trigger. No real comments, but there is a molded selector switch right here, which again, I think is funny. Just like the inaccuracy of them calling this a safety or whatever. There are 2 options, fire and safe, and it's locked permanently into safe mode. So you shouldn't be able to fire it. Since there is no safety on this blaster, it would make more sense to lock it permanently into fire mode, but whatever. It is just molded plastic. It's not a real switch. It doesn't move. It doesn't disable like firing or actually put on a safety. Just a funny little detail that nobody really cares about. I try to inform. Moving back to the grip, it is pretty comfortable. As far as thumbhole stocks go, it is pretty comfortable, but it's just not really my style because this part of the stock kind of bumps into my palm. But the fillet's pretty smooth, and overall it's an ergonomically shaped blaster, so it is comfortable. For somebody of my size, this stock is not really functional. It's just a little bit too short, but I think the proportions are pretty solid. And as far as the stock go, there aren't dart storage areas, little storage compartments. It's just a molded plastic stock, which is pretty rigid. That's nice, but nothing else to point out. So if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Quick 360 twirl. Oh yeah. Now you know whether or not you like it even more, right? Intimidation. 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 So that is the Max Attack blaster. Let's go into the Hurricane, which is again pretty much the exact same thing minus the stock in the barrel. So this overview will be pretty quick because it's all pretty much the same stuff. To prime, you pull back on the handle. It uses the magazines, again, not cross-compatible with Nerf mags, but these magazines are interchangeable within each other, meaning the Zuru ones within the Zuru blasters. My combo came with 2 blasters and 4 magazines, which can all be used together and fun like that. I also think it's pretty cool that this part is like hollow, so when you put in the magazine, you can like see it. So that's cool. Yeah, no attachment point up here for Zuru attachments or Nerf attachments or that barrel, because that's, again, fixed to that blaster. So nice and smooth, and it's just a smaller version of the Max Attack. Moving to the back, the grip is almost identical other than not having the thumb hole like jutting out here, so I think it's more comfortable, really. Trigger, magazine release, all the other operation is the same. So really they're using the same mechanics, so if you like the longer guns, you can buy this one. If you like the shorter ones, you know, this one's, again, the same thing, cross-compatible, good stuff. Both of these blasters use the Zuru darts, which are very similar to the Bug Attack ones, also by Zuru, but you cannot smoothly use the N-Strike darts inside the X-Shot magazines. In their front loaders, you can, because the slight length difference doesn't really make a huge impact. But when dealing with the magazine system, these magazines are specifically sized for the X-Shot darts, so when you try to put in a Nerf dart, they're just too long, and they don't work. Although if you abandon the magazine system and just hand load in a single Nerf Elite dart, it will fire, but who wants a breech loader when it's a magazine system? So that's the product overview. Now to some firing. Now the little one. So shooting the blasters is pretty fun. It's what you would expect from, you know, most Nerf blasters. These aren't super unique or anything. They're just magazine-fed spring blasters, so they're fun to shoot. I put both of these blasters up on my chronograph, and for the Hurricane, the small one here, I got an average of 79 feet per second, which is a little bit hotter than the 70 FPS average or norm for the Nerf Elite blasters. And the Max Attack averaged about 76 feet per second, also shooting a little bit hotter than normal Nerf Elite blasters. Now there is a small variance here, and it's probably just because of how I measure my muzzle velocities. I measure muzzle velocity, so obviously right out of the muzzle. So when I have a shorter blaster and a longer blaster with a propulsion mech equal, like right here, I'm actually chronoing in like this. So it's pretty much like scooting back from the chronograph to chrono. Moreover, the dart's probably bouncing around in the barrel just a little bit, which can pull off a few FPS on the chrono. So, you know, they're pretty much effectively the same, but that small variation is worth noting, I guess. I did not have any blaster malfunctions, but I did have one magazine malfunction. And what happened during this jam was with this follower here, the follower actually kind of turned over inside itself and locked down, and it got jammed like halfway down the magazine, so it could no longer push darts up into the barrel, so it stopped feeding. I took out the magazine and I just kind of like worked it, got my pliers and kind of re-straightened it, and it worked out just fine. It didn't damage or break the magazine, but the jam is worth noting in the review. The jam was likely caused by a small amount of play it has, the follower inside the magazine here, and the tolerance is just a little bit different. The follower in the Nerf magazines is also a lot longer, so it's much harder. It can't really physically flop over unless you open up the magazine, where this is a little bit shorter and more like a square, so it's able to flop over and then jam itself, which it did. I'd also like to clarify the situation surrounding that jam was kind of irregular when I run the gun really hard towards the end of my review procedure, and it happened when I was firing sideways really quickly. Sometimes the blasters aren't designed to do all of that, but I pretty thoroughly test the blasters for my review, and that's the hardcore parkour mode when I'm just going nuts, and that's when the jam happened. So normal people probably would never experience that, but I'm not normal. Intimidation, intimidation, intimidation. So overall opinion on these blasters. If you're really into the Zuru or the X-Shot blasters, I think these blasters performed well. Their chrono readings speak for themselves. They shoot a little bit hot. The X-Shot darts are, you know, a change from Nerf Elite darts. I wouldn't really say they're better or worse. I wish they were cross-compatible. These magazines, they're so close to being cross-compatible, but they're just not, and that's almost frustrating, especially when Buzzbee has the cross-compatible magazines, which is just nice. But these are not, so when you're using these, you can't use Nerf darts or any of the longer standard darts. You have to use the X-Shot Zuru darts. This blaster is very similar to the Nerf Retaliator, top primed, spring powered, magazine fed blaster, you know, very comparable. If you have a lot of Nerf Elite darts, you know, the Nerf blaster might be better better because you can't use them with this one. But I know a lot of people like to be unique and stuff, so I'm sure somebody's going to check out these blasters. Didn't have any jams or malfunctions other than the magazine, like I mentioned. They both shoot pretty hard, and they're comfortable, ergonomic, fun to play with. Forgot to mention these cans. The box totally says it includes 6 cans, not 6 half cans or 3 full cans. What the F, David Blaine? Marketing wizards. But these guys pop together, or like kind of click together more or less, with these little guides, and then you can, you know, have a plastic can. And they're kind of heavy, so sometimes when I shot them, I would move them, but they wouldn't like fall over. And that's nice if you want to shoot the same target over and over, but if you don't want it to react and move, you might as well like shoot at a light switch. It's kind of the same size. When I hit my target, I want it to just be like intimidation, and it feels good. Intimidation, intimidation, intimidation. So, you know, some like paper cups, super cheap, really fun, and you know, they don't come in packs of 6 halves. They come in packs of like 30. So yeah, better targets in my opinion. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Go sit in the corner. So that is my review of the Zuru X-Shot, Hurricane, and Max Attack blasters. Hopefully I provided everything you need to know whether or not you'd like to purchase one. I'll have a buy link in the description box below. That's it. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay tactical.